The man once known as the best in the world is joining the UFC. Welcome into MMA Live Extra. I'm Kerry Chow. Phil Brooks, or CM Punk as wrestling fans know him, is the UFC's newest signing announced at UFC 181. To discuss further, we bring in ESPN MMA writer Brett Okamoto. Brett, your initial reaction to the signing?
Yeah, as someone who covers the sport on a daily basis and, sees what these guys are capable of and, sees different fighters work towards getting into the UFC Octagon, I'm not a huge fan of it. This feels like a celebrity fight. You're taking a guy who has never fought before and really has very, very limited martial arts training in general, and you're allowing him to fight in the UFC, and not only just in the UFC, but probably a very big stage. We don't know exactly when and where CM Punk or Phil Brooks, I'm not sure which one we're calling him, but we'll stick with CM Punk. We're not sure when he's going to debut with the UFC and where, but it's probably going to be in a high-profile spot. It's going to be on a main card with a lot of eyeballs on it. So in terms of, a fan of the sport, I don't like it. But I'm also not naive enough to think that if I wasn't in the UFC front office, I'm looking at the numbers and financially what CM Punk brings to the table. It's a very tempting thing for the organization, and it's something that they decided that they wanted to do in 2015. And really, from a business standpoint, you can't blame them too much.
Yeah, he certainly can bring a lot of eyeballs. Brooks/Punk spoke to the media after UFC 181 about the perception of him in the MMA world.
Being CM Punk, the WWE guy, I've been to gyms not only in Chicago, but across the country, if I'm on the road or whatever, and you walk in there and you kind of have a bullseye on you, like, oh, I'm gonna break the phony pro wrestling guy's arm when I just wanted to, roll or sweat or whatnot. So I just gotta make sure I'm comfortable with everybody.
So, Brett, there will be inevitable comparisons to Brock Lesnar, who also, of course, transitioned from WWE to UFC, but Lesnar had previous college wrestling experience. You referenced this already, but what should we expect to see from Brooks, the 36-year-old rookie?
Yeah, I expect to see very little from Brooks, and that's not a knock on Brooks. He said all the right things at that press conference. I believe him when he says that he's taking it seriously. I believe him when he says he doesn't want to just come in and get his butt kicked in the Octagon. I believe him when he says that this is something that he's considered and it's something that he wants to do in a real sense. But I also know how difficult it is to fight. I know how difficult it is to train and to get in a cage and compete and to look good doing it, especially. It's very difficult to do. So I think what you're going to see when you see CM Punk in a cage is you're going to see an amateur fight, which can sometimes be ugly and it can be raw. And, I think that some people that's going to jar them a little bit because they're so used to seeing this guy entertain and compete on a high level, on a staged level. And now you're going to see him, learning as he goes. And that's I think that's going to be jarring to some.
Yeah, well, whenever he fights, we'll be watching, and time will tell to see if UFC ends up getting punked. That's Brett Okamoto. That's it for MMA Live Extra. For Brett Okamoto, I'm Kerry Chow. Thanks for watching.